Chapter 9. This is part 2. So in this video we're just going to talk about things like software copyright, internet policing, and other topics like that. So let's do it. Describe methods that software producers employ to prevent software copyright being broken. So if you've bought like Microsoft Office, for example, from your computer shop, there are 3 different ways that these software developers use to stop the copyright being broken. So usually when you buy a genuine CD or software from your computer shop, each disk will come with a serial number or product key, and sometimes they may have a hologram on the disk, and there's a license agreement that you usually have to agree to when you install the software. So serial numbers and product keys, like at the bottom, usually you would find there is a product key that you would enter. So somewhere, like for example in this picture, they supposedly say it's this little red part, but usually when you install the software and during the installation wizard, you're going to get the part of the wizard that's going to say enter your product key to continue, which will prove that the software is genuine. The hologram, so here's an example over here. This is Windows 7 Ultimate. So if your disk is usually genuine, there is a hologram on your disk. And then the license agreement, it's this little box over here where you'd read the terms and conditions of the software, and there's always a little tick box that says I agree to the terms and conditions, etc. And you'd go on, clicking continue, and you install the software. So let's just read these. So for serial numbers and product keys, when the software is being installed, users are often asked to enter a unique number which proves the software is original. Serial numbers and product keys are supplied with the original copy of the software. Holograms, they are often used on packaging of software, and they indicate that the copy is genuine. Software without a hologram on the packaging is usually an illegal copy, as are too difficult and costly to pirates to implement. And lastly, the license agreement. License agreements are part of the software installation process, and they inform the user exactly how they are legally allowed to use the product. Users are required to agree to the terms of use before they can complete the installation. Any breach of this can mean prosecution and fining. Alright, so those are 3 ways that software producers try to prevent software copyright being broken. So just some definitions. You've got to know what legal, moral, ethical, and cultural means in the context of ICT solutions. Legal, this covers the law, whether an action is punishable by law. Moral, governs the private and personal interactions between people and is usually determined by the person concerned. Ethical, governs professional interactions, i.e. codes of behavior practiced by a society or group of people, sometimes going against an individual's sense of morality. The last one, cultural, refers to the attitude, values, and practices shared by a society or group of people. So you just got to know the definitions. Usually there's not a very big question on this part, but just know these as well as you can. What is meant by illegal? So that's essentially anything that breaks the law. Anything that goes against the law, it's illegal. So an example from ICT, from your textbook or your summary notes, copying software and then selling it without the permission of the copyright holder, that is illegal. So that's an example. Discuss why the internet is not policed, although legislation is enforced in some countries, and the effects of this, including the existence of inappropriate websites. Okay, so currently the internet is not monitored by a law enforcement agency, and this provides cyber criminals a large degree of anonymity and protection. So they can go around being anonymous, and that in a way protects them from being caught. Every day, people illegally download software for free on the internet without fear of consequence. It is not just illegal downloading that is a problem. Crimes such as online fraud, computer hacking, child abuse, and the use of other inappropriate sites happens all over the internet frequently. Alright, so there is no agency at the moment that is actually watching the internet or policing it, although there are some people that want that to happen, and there are others that are against it. So give reasons why the internet may not be policed. Okay, so these are reasons why today it hasn't been implemented. So legal jurisdictions. Okay, so most internet crime takes place across different countries that have different legal jurisdictions. Okay, so they give you an example over here. So if someone in China, so China has a different legal jurisdiction or authority than, for example, America. Okay, so they say if someone in China downloaded a copy of Microsoft Windows, it would be very difficult for Microsoft to convince the law enforcement in China to prosecute them. It didn't happen in their country, so it's not their problem. Alright, so if you have different authorities, you have to, if you're going from one country to another, if you want to prosecute someone, you're going to have to convince the other authority in a different country to go ahead and prosecute that person that has broken the law. So for example, in this case, downloaded an illegal copy of Microsoft Windows. Different laws. So different countries have different laws. So for example, a lot of big file sharing websites are hosted in countries like Russia and Sweden, where there are no laws against downloading software for free. So some countries allow, for example, pirating to occur, and therefore if in that country the law says they can download software for free, you cannot go ahead and prosecute anyone in that country because their law says it is fine for them to do so. Lack of training and qualified officers. Most agents and officers don't have specialized internet crime and digital forensic training. Most police departments are lucky to have a single person who's qualified to carry out computer crime investigation. Okay, so there's just a lack of people who can actually do this type of job. Who do I report to? So on the internet, there is no central law enforcement agency, so people don't know where to report to. So for example, if someone tries to defraud me online, do I report it to Microsoft, Apple, the FBI, or my local police department? So these are just some reasons why the internet is not policed at the moment. So different authorities, different legal jurisdictions that you've got to convince, in other words, to prosecute someone if they've downloaded a copy of your software illegally, if they're in a different country. There are different laws. Some countries allow software to be downloaded, some countries might not. There are no qualified people that actually are able to carry out investigations against computer crimes, and there's no central place to report any crimes that are done digitally. Alright, so give arguments for the policing of the internet. Why would you want the internet to be policed? So these are just going to be a few. There are a couple of others, but these are some basic ones. It would prevent illegal material being posted on websites, such as racist comments, pornography, terrorist activities, etc. People find it much easier to discover information which can have serious consequences, so people can learn how to hack, they can learn how to make a bomb on the internet, and those are very dangerous. So it's very easy if you've got a search engine to do this compared to just using a textbook. Some form of control would prevent children and other vulnerable groups from being subject to undesirable websites. And some form of control would stop incorrect information being published on websites. Alright, so inaccurate information. So these are just some arguments. So there are others in your book, but these are just basic ones. And lastly, give arguments against policing the internet. So why would you not want the internet to be policed? So these are also some very basic arguments. Your book will have others. It would be very expensive to police all the websites, and users would have to pay for this somehow. Okay, so every single website would have to be monitored, and there's a huge expense to do that. And some people might be taxed or saying in order for that to happen. It would be difficult to enforce rules and regulations on a global scale. So if the entire world had to follow these rules, that is quite difficult to enforce. It can be argued that policing would go against freedom of information, freedom of speech. So some people would argue you have the right to search for anything you want, and if the internet is policed, then you go against the freedom of speech. Who is to decide what is illegal or offensive? Many things are only offensive to certain people, but not to the majority. Alright, so there's going to be the issue here is who's going to decide what can be online anymore and what can be offline or taken off because it might be offensive. Okay, cool. So that is the end of the lesson. I hope that was okay. Let me know if you have any questions.